Hello, I'm Siobhan Heanue. Welcome to the Culture Quarter. Coming up, the wickedly funny Artprice that pokes fun at Australian politicians.
I think people from overseas would be possibly a bit shocked by our irreverence.
Skateboarding is seen as a bit of a rebellious or subversive pursuit, even though it's been around for decades and it shows no sign of slowing down. A Scottish photographer based in Melbourne has spent years travelling around the globe taking photos of skaters in their element, and her images are now on show at the National Portrait Gallery. The variety of faces she's captured shows that while skateboarding is a global culture, there's no such thing as a typical skater.
I enjoy skateboarding because it sort of takes me away from life in general. I can just zone out and just flow around and enjoy it, yeah.
Just kind of the freedom to do whatever you want. I mean, skateboarding, there's no rules, there's no right or wrong way to do things. You just go out and have fun with your friends.
Oh, yeah, anybody can skate, but it's just like your attitude on it. Like, if you're being all serious, it's not as fun.
Born from the surfing culture of 1970s California, skating swept the world. It's a culture that just keeps reinventing itself, appealing to one generation after another. The young embrace it, and the elders of the skating world protect it.
It's a brotherhood, and you can go anywhere in the world and find someone else who's a skateboarder and you've got a common thing.
One photographer and skater has captured it with her camera.
Well, because I'd experienced it myself, I was just really curious to know if when other people skated, they actually had almost this kind of meditative space they were in while they were skating.
She spent years travelling the world, taking photos of skaters in their element, 300 photographs at last count. Skaters love the sense of perpetual motion, but there's also a stillness to their craft, an inner focus that these photos are trying to channel.
When you skate, no one's talking to you, no one's trying to tell you what to do or even shout things out. You've got to totally be in the zone, in your own headspace. So it was quite easy. Once I spoke to other skaters, they really got it, and everyone who got in touch with me knew what the project was about.
Skating is about moving through space. It's about the dynamism of your body. It's about the connection between your body and your mind. So to think about those processes in a different way, to sort of think about them through stillness, is what makes these photos really interesting.
The portraits are taken in black and white to blur away the logos and labels that are synonymous with skateboarding. Nikki Toole takes a maximum of 5 shots so her subjects don't have time to get self-conscious. The shots are deliberately uniform, but they loudly proclaim the individuality of each skater.
What sort of clothes do you wear? What does it say about you? And it's really interesting to try and guess where these people are from, where the photo was taken. Some of them were taken in Berlin, Prague, London, Fitzroy in Melbourne.
Sometimes they're seen as fringe dwellers, blending into the concrete and shredding through suburban streets. But skaters have a long, proud history. They're the stalwarts of counterculture.
There's a lot of older skaters here that have been doing it since they were really young, and different generations that are coming up and coming through.
Like what I grew up with, it was associated with the punk scene and pretty rebellious, and I quite enjoyed that fact as well. Skateboarding now these days is a lot more mainstream, and there's a whole range of skateboarders as there is in other walks of life.
Skateboarding bridges gaps between a lot of different subcultures. I mean, there are a lot of people I'm friends with or have been friends with for a long time through skateboarding that I don't necessarily have much else in common with outside of skateboarding.
Just mucking around heaps.
Just working on tricks too.
Yeah, just learning new stuff.
Even the very youngest share in that sense of pride.
When you're young, it's more about just hanging out with your friends, and it gives you so much self-confidence to be good at something, because not everyone is going to be the fastest runner or the best hockey player or whatever. You know, something you can just practice on your own is a huge boost in confidence to a young person.
Regardless of how the outside world sees them, skaters are a diverse group, connected by a common thread.
The people that do it and love it are all doing it for the same reason, and it kind of brings about this sort of mutual understanding between everyone.
You're one with yourself, kind of thing.
This is a world where the individual is king. Well, everyone's heard of the Archibald which pays tribute to famous Australians. But then there's the Bald Archie, which does exactly the opposite. By poking fun at famous faces, the satirical Artprice captures the movers, shakers and the moments that made headlines, but not always in a flattering light. It's the art event where nothing is sacred. From those in power to those looking for it, from corporate moguls to media kings, those who made headlines and those who chase them, those who earn them and those who earn a living from them. They're all hung cheek by jowl. No punches are pulled here. The artists have all paid their dues to the Aussie traditions of satire, larrikinism and good old-fashioned tall poppy syndrome.
I think people from overseas would be possibly a bit shocked by our irreverence.
Some pieces are certainly designed to shock, like a bolt from the blue, or two.
Is it a portrait, or is it a recording of an event, or is it somebody in a landscape that may have some reference to a political or a social scandal?
The realism is just astonishing. You could almost reach out and touch that flesh. It's always a bit of a surprise for organisers to see who emerges as the most popular subject, who captures the limelight and who catches the imagination of artists.
Ita Buttrose suddenly has popped up several times in most interesting situations.
It's always a smash hit with the punters, if not with its subjects, who may not see the humour. But then they don't tend to turn up for opening night. Funny, that. Artist Russell Drysdale is best known for his iconic outback landscapes. What he's not as well known for is his depictions of Australians at war. During the Second World War, Drysdale produced a series of works exploring the effects of war on rural Australia. Now, to mark the centenary of his birth, the Australian War Memorial has put on an exhibition that sheds light on some of these works.
A lone soldier, tired and cold, waiting for the unknown.
Just captures the sort of the youthfulness, the sort of isolation, sitting at Albury railway station waiting in the cold.
While Russell Drysdale's interpretations of the outback have burnt themselves into the national consciousness, these less-known pieces tell a bleak tale of the effects of war. Poor eyesight kept Drysdale away from the battleground, but that didn't stop the artist documenting a different sort of conflict unfolding on the home front. Albury served as a key military stopover town, providing Drysdale with a constant new source of inspiration, from sentimental to tragic. It was there he also met official war artist Donald Friend, whose influences are evident in Drysdale's work. By 1945, he received correspondence inviting him to serve as official war artist, which he swiftly rejected.
I think he'd felt that he'd pretty well touched all the subject areas that he was interested in, wasn't interested in just spending time, perhaps in yet another army base.
By then, his reputation was gaining momentum, and within years he was producing these iconic images. And while these may be the paintings most associated with Drysdale, his haunting depictions of the effects of war show another, equally important side to the iconic artist.
16 lucky students from around Australia recently had a rare glimpse at the inner workings of the National Gallery of Australia. Each year, the gallery holds a summer school for budding artists, and this year, the old masters of the Renaissance provided the inspiration. From more than 400 applicants, these lucky 16 have been granted a rare insight into the art world.
It's been amazing. I've never experienced anything like this before. Seeing behind the scenes how the gallery works. 11 students from every state and territory have been selected for a week of tours, workshops and discussions on the visual arts industry.
But the naturalism of this painting, the modelling of the Madonna and the baby, the realism really already is a forerunner of what artists during that period developed. So I think we hope to inspire them to picture themselves in the kinds of roles of the people that they meet.
And this year, the scholarship program coincides with the National Gallery's blockbuster Renaissance exhibition.
It's just so opulent and rich. It's just a really old way of looking at things that it's got a beauty to it that we don't normally see.
One of those innovations was the development of linear perspective in painting, an idea being explored by the students at this workshop being run in the shell of the burnt-out Mount Stromlo Observatory.
We're just replicating the view 360 degrees onto the inside of the observatory.
Just trying to do it so that things in the foreground are darker and things further away are lighter.
It's about, looking at the skies, looking at the heavens, and it was during the Renaissance that telescopes were invented, and so I suppose we're making those connections again with the Renaissance.
Inspired by an era of artistic and cultural rebirth, these young artists are experiencing their own renaissance.
I think you've got something happening already. It's really transformed, hasn't it? Do you reckon?
Well, that's all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm Siobhan Henu. Join me next time on The Culture Quarter.